Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today we discuss if Caleb Williams over Jayden Daniels will be this year's Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. What are we talking about? Well, on Get Up this week, they were having a conversation talking about Caleb Williams and how good of a situation he is walking into in Chicago. And ESPN analyst Booger McFarland made the argument on that show that Jayden Daniels is probably going to have a better rookie year than Caleb Williams. And halfway through the season, there might be an argument going on that the Bears made the wrong decision in drafting Caleb Williams over Jayden Daniels. We will go ahead and we will play this clip from ESPN Get Up, and then we will discuss afterwards.
Guys, there's some validity to what both Dans are saying, but don't be surprised if midway through the season we're having a conversation very similar to what we had last year, meaning the number 2 pick, Jayden Daniels, looks better than the number 1 pick, Caleb Williams. Just like we had last year with CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, because there are a lot of people out of Washington telling me that this young man, Jayden Daniels, not only does he look the part, his teammates know he looked the part. And I think Caleb Williams is going to struggle, and I think Jayden Daniels is going to come out the gate flying. And we're going to have this conversation, Greeny. Mark it down, July the 16th, whatever it is, it's 100 degrees. Did the Chicago Bears make the right pick? We're going to have this conversation again.
Okay, let's address the first main point that he used to talk about this here. The fact that he said people out of Washington are very excited about Jayden Daniels and the players are very excited out of Jayden Daniels. I would hope so. These are the people that drafted this player. They are the people that are very dependent on his success in the NFL to keep their jobs and to, make money from their jobs. So I would hope that they would be optimistic about him. This is a thing that I've learned from interviewing people for a few years now, is because I do a lot of, or at least I used to do a lot of like preseason talking interviews, talking to people about their teams before the season. Everyone is optimistic right now. Everyone thinks that their team is going to be better than it was last year. They think that all of their weaknesses have been addressed through the draft, through free agency. Everyone is optimistic right now. Okay, with that being said, though, let's compare Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams' situation. Caleb Williams is walking into a way better situation than Jayden Daniels is right now. Let's look at the offensive skill weapons that Caleb Williams has, compare them to Jayden Daniels. So look at Caleb Williams' offensive weapons. He's got DJ Moore. He's got Keenan Allen that they traded for this offseason. And then you got Rome Odunze that they drafted with the 9th pick in the draft. Comparing that to Jayden Daniels' top 3 wide receivers, it's Terry McLaurin, who is an elite wide receiver. I love Terry McLaurin. Had him on my fantasy team last year. Jahan Dotson, who people like because he was drafted in the first round, but production-wise in the NFL hasn't necessarily lived up to his draft status. And if you look at the Washington Commanders depth chart right now, they're going to be relying on a third-round rookie from Rice to be that third wide receiver for them. So if you're just comparing wide receivers alone, Chicago and Caleb Williams have a lot better weapons right now than Washington does. If you want to do running back, tight end combos, the Bears have Cole Kmet, and then they have DeAndre Swift. The Commanders have Austin Eckler, and then they have a past his prime Zach Ertz. And then if you want to, and this is the big difference here between these two guys, the Bears offensive line, I think people have some baggage with the Bears offensive line where they're looking at it in the past and are like, geez, the Bears offensive line's always bad. The Bears always suck on the offensive line. If you look at them in the second half of last year when they finally got healthy, they finished the season as an above average offensive line. And if you look at Pro Football Focus right now, they are 11th out of 32 teams heading into this season. Comparing that to Washington's offensive line, if you thought the Bears' offensive line was bad last year, Washington's was way worse. I think Sam Howell led the lead in sacks. If he wasn't first, he was second in the league in sacks. Okay, and then if you look at the offensive lines heading into this year, the Bears basically have that offensive line we were talking about. They have 4 of 5 returning starters coming back. The Washington Commanders are having to have 4 new starters on their offensive line. Again, it's hard to get worse than they were last year. They were like 27th out of 32 last year. But I think it's fair to expect again that this Washington Commanders offensive line is going to be below average. So if you're just looking all around on just offensive skill pieces and offensive line, the Bears are in a way better position to compete right away than Washington is. The only argument that you can make, and even if you compare the defenses, the Bears have a better defense than Washington right now. The only way that you could say that Jayden Daniels is in a better situation than Caleb Williams is if you are just completely out on Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron. Shane Waldron's the new offensive coordinator this year. And you're really high on Dan Quinn and you're really high on Cliff Kingsbury. If that's going to be your argument, go ahead. I don't know if there's too much of a gap between all of those guys. I genuinely don't. I genuinely don't. Okay. But let's talk about these guys as prospects, because I think this has been a thing with Caleb Williams where people, he had a little bit of a rough second half to the college football season last year where they lost like 4 or 5 out of their last 6 games at USC. And I think people have just kind of been sitting after the college football season, evaluating things before the draft, and now evaluating things before the season, where we've just been sitting there and staring at this stuff for so long. We are just trying to like find things like, okay, how can we be critical of Caleb Williams? Caleb Williams is as near perfect of a NFL draft prospect at quarterback position as we've had. Is he a generational talent? I don't know if I would go that far, but he is dang near perfect as a draft prospect. He has the arm talent. He has the arm strength. He can make every throw on all 3 levels. His arm strength and arm talent, it's on the level of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And I think maybe even a criticism that people might have of Caleb Williams is like they keep hearing the Patrick Mahomes comparisons when people are doing the scouting process, which seems sacrilegious to bring that up with how good Mahomes has been at the NFL. And I think maybe even people are misinterpreting that and saying like, oh, okay, are you saying that like Caleb Williams coming out of USC was at the same place where Patrick Mahomes was coming out of Texas Tech? No, 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 no. That is not what they are saying at all. Caleb Williams is a lot better prospect than Patrick Mahomes was coming out of Texas Tech. Again, not saying he's going to be better than Patrick Mahomes, not saying that at all, just talking about grading them as a quarterback prospect. He can make plays off script, out of structure. He can make throws off balance, different feet, different arm angles, the side arm angles. He is an awesome quarterback prospect and very much worthy of the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And going back, I don't, maybe probably the best prospect since maybe Burrow, if I had to go back there. Jayden Daniels, let's talk about him here a little bit. Very good quarterback prospect. Had an awesome 5th year at LSU. He was awesome. 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He had like 12 rushing touchdowns, 1,100 rushing yards. He was an absolute stud at LSU. But if you're talking about him at the quarterback position, very deep accuracy with the football. He's awesome with his deep throws. But his arm talent is more close to average than it is Patrick Mahomes, if I'm being kind with talking about that. A thing that he is going to struggle with in the NFL, as we talked about, he is a dual threat quarterback. He rushed for 1,100 yards at LSU. Basically, his entire college career, he was a dual threat quarterback. If you watch a lot of the tape of his runs, he's not the best at protecting himself. He's really not that good at protecting himself and opening himself up to taking big hits. There's a difference between doing that in the SEC in college football than it is for a 17-game NFL season. That is a way that you can get banged up. That is a way that you can get knocked out. Okay. Especially too with Jayden Daniels having a little bit more of a slenderish frame. Caleb Williams is kind of built like a tree trunk. And again, I know Jayden Daniels is a little bit taller than Caleb. Caleb is 6'1". That's probably the biggest knock. If you're talking about Caleb as a prospect, is the fact that he's 6'1". Again, Jayden Daniels, if you want to look at another upside of him, a lot of playing time, played 55 games. But I think the really big thing, and I'm not saying that Jayden Daniels doesn't have this, I don't know. But I know just based on the track record of Oklahoma quarterbacks that the big thing when Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield got drafted 1st overall in the draft, they blew teams away on the chalkboard and the whiteboard and drawing up plays. They blew teams away. And that's been a constant theme with Lincoln Riley quarterbacks, is that these guys just have a very good understanding of the offense and the playbook, like more so than your average prospect. That's the thing that like Trevor Lawrence kind of struggled with. That was the thing that people were kind of skeptical about with CJ Stroud, was kind of like, hey, we don't know. And I also think CJ Stroud was hurt from like the kind of perception of the Ohio State quarterback. I think he was really hurt from that. But again, Caleb Williams, I have no doubt that this dude is going to step in day one and be an awesome quarterback. And I think he is in a much better situation to succeed than Jayden Daniels. So there you have it. I think the Bears could even make the playoffs this year. Commanders, it depends how good that offensive line is. because I'm not necessarily high on that division. The Bears are in a much different division where the Packers and the Lions could be competing for a Super Bowl. But to say that Jayden Daniels is in a better situation and he's a better talent than Caleb Williams, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. So there you have it, guys. That's going to do it for this episode here today of the Sports Tech Podcast Show. If you like this episode, help us out. Hit that like button. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. We're getting way more views than we are subscriptions. So help us out. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button. It's the best thing to help the show grow. And leave comments on feedback on this show. What do you guys think? Do you take Caleb Williams over Jayden Daniels? Do you take Jayden Daniels over Caleb Williams? You maybe take Drake May over one of them if you're a Drake May guy, Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy. Kind of give me your thoughts on all the rookie quarterbacks and how good you think they're going to be this year. So, and also feel free to check out Sports Tech Podcast channel page. Might find some other videos that you like. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.